Today we'll be taking a look at Dirt Rally on the PS4 and the Potato Masher. If this is the first video you've seen of mine, the Potato Masher is a $375 PC custom built in 2014 and designed to compete with the PS4 for the rest of its life cycle. The goal is not to pick on consoles, but to show that PC gaming can be just as good or better for the same money. The project was started by the Casual Shenanigans Gaming Podcast, so go check us out using the link on screen. You can support the Potato Masher project and my channel by tossing me a few bucks on Patreon, where you can also see all Potato Masher reviews a few days early. This lets me test new games quicker and better. Lastly, this game was recorded, edited, and uploaded at 60 FPS, so you should switch to that if your browser supports it. Alright, let's get to it. Dirt Rally is a return to the hardcore racing roots the series moved away from in the last few installments. A sparse UI that forces you to rely on your co-driver for route guidance, punishing road conditions, and a sim-focused handling model all sound like signs that a game is made for the PC audience. This is all true, however Dirt Rally is also great on the PS4. The game runs at native 1080p and 60 FPS on console, so I targeted that with the Potato Masher. The game ran well at very high settings, but the frame rate did drop into the low 50s at times. I set everything to the high preset and the game was 100% stable from then on. I decided on 8x QCSAA for the anti-aliasing, which is comparable to 2x conventional MSAA. I tried 16x QCSAA in very high settings just for fun, which meant I had to lock the frame rate at 30 or deal with drops into the 50s. It looked great, but not that much better than high, and I really prefer 60 FPS when possible, so I set everything back to high. The PS4 and Potato Masher had some noticeable differences when the cars weren't moving. Shadow resolution appears to be higher on the PC, and there's also a higher level of anisotropic filtering. However, as soon as I started driving, both of those differences were very hard or impossible to spot. This was a smart optimization decision by the developers, as the PS4 version looks identical during races. Foliage is also higher quality on the PC, and that was more noticeable during gameplay. The Potato Masher had less noticeable pop-in on the trees, and they were sharper and more defined. This is a small difference, but it's there. Rain, snow, and sand all appeared to be identical across both platforms, which is a refreshing change from most racing games on the PS4. The last difference was anti-aliasing. Like I mentioned earlier, the Potato Masher is running 8x QCSAA, and it was definitely higher quality than the PS4. Still, the game looks great on both platforms, and at 60 FPS, the experience was essentially identical. You'll notice a little screen tearing in this section, as I had to disable VSync to run at frame rates higher than the refresh rate on my monitor. 60 FPS is great, but if you have a high refresh rate monitor, PCs let you experience even greater levels of responsiveness and fluidity. I tried 144 FPS, but to keep the frame rate stable, I had dropped the settings to very low. Kudos to Codemasters for adding in graphics levels that look like a PS2 game so more people can play Dirt Rally, but very low looked unacceptably bad in my opinion. Pop-in was horrible, the textures were incredibly low resolution, and the lighting model was flat and bland. The frame rate was stable, but I didn't think the visual trade-off was worth it. Low settings looked quite a bit better, but the frame rate did dip regularly. I decided on 120 FPS and low settings, and the game looked and ran well. If I had a high refresh rate monitor, the Potato Masher would easily handle Dirt Rally. After a few games that didn't work well at 1440p or 4K, the Potato Masher knocked Dirt Rally out of the park. 1440p at 60 FPS and medium settings was fantastic. The game looked very similar to 1080p in high settings, but with the added detail that comes with higher resolutions. The Potato Masher could also run Dirt on very high at 1440p, but the frame rate had to be locked to 30 FPS. I wouldn't prefer playing this game at 30, but it's an option and it ran fine. 4K worked on high settings and 30 FPS, and the detail bump was noticeable again. At low settings, it ran at a shaky 60 FPS with frequent dips into the 50s and 40s. That's understandable given the increase in resolution. Here's the PS4 running the game at 1080p, and to scale, here's the Potato Masher running at 1440p and 4K. If I wanted to game at 4K with the Potato Masher, I'd probably lock the frame rate at 45 FPS. I didn't try very low settings since they looked really bad at 1080p. Also, it's a little bit silly to be comparing a game at a resolution that you would need a monitor that cost more than the computer to actually game at, but, you know, it's fun. Dirt Rally is fast, difficult, and very good looking. I'm happy that both platforms achieved a relative visual parity, and that the PS4's few shortcomings didn't make the game worse. As usual, the Potato Masher took the lead with higher resolution and frame rate options, but both platforms did a great job. If you enjoyed this video, check out the original build video or any of the other Potato Masher videos linked on screen. You can also follow me on Twitter, check out the Casual Shenanigans Gaming Podcast, or support the project on Patreon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.